and let us all do we can to build a better future.
So, folks, recently, Joe Biden was on CNN, not CNN, correction, 60 Minutes. And gee, I guess now I'm catching the dementia too. Sorry about that.
They're all the
folks.
same, though.
Yeah. They're all the same and nothing will fundamentally change. But apparently Joe 30330 decided to make some very bold statements. And I have to wonder just the panic. I would like to be a fly on the wall to see the panic in the Biden-Harris administration, to see really like how the hell they're going to recover from, dare I say it, a very disastrous interview that he did on 60 Minutes. I think it really shows just how out of touch President Joe Biden is. So this is an article from Axios. Unfortunately, the article I had from The Hill was not loading up properly, but President Biden said it is an intention to run for re-election. God help us all. But it's much too early to make a firm decision on 2024. Now, why it matters, Biden's comments during an interview with CBS 60 Minutes that aired Sunday evening mark a departure from previous remarks he and White House aides have made about the 2024 presidential election cycle. And as we have covered, as numerous other independent media networks have covered, a lot of Democrats don't want him to run again. And while there are reports going out of his approval rating being at 40 points, 45% up, let's be very clear. Inflation's still on the rise. We still have ridiculous regime change wars. And now Biden, who is actually at Queen Elizabeth's funeral, my God, it takes forever to bury that old woman.
Well, she's in the ground today. She's there.
But how long? Like, here's the thing. Not to get off subject, but seriously, when I die, here are the wishes of King Kit Cabello. Okay, bury my body with a Viking funeral, light my body on fire, celebrate for 3 days, get drunk, get high, all the drugs in the world. Everyone just go crazy, go bananas. All right. And there we go. Keep it simple. So,
well, I want mine more like the Queen, I will say. I liked it. But I mean, I'm your typical girl where my birthday lasts an entire month. Like, that's how I want my funeral to be, you know?
Right. So so getting back on point, Biden said during the interview that the pandemic is over, folks. So that's it. COVID's over. No more booster shots. No more masks. The pandemic's over, according to Joe 30330, and has vowed to get control of inflation that is still running amok. And he said that American forces would defend Taiwan if China's military invaded the self-governing island, prompting the White House to stress that the U.S. policy hasn't changed on that matter. He also responded to a photo of top-secret documents strewn on the floor of former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence during the FBI search of the Florida property, raising concerns that the data may have been compromised and questioning how anyone could be that irresponsible. So let's stop here for a second, Farron.
Let's unpack all this.
Let's unpack all of this. I want to get your analysis on this. First, he's saying that the pandemic's over. He's going to do something about inflation, even though it's still running amok. Gas prices are still high. I don't care what anybody says. People are still being evicted from their homes and apartments. And now he has made this ridiculous, bold statement that we're going to use U.S. forces to defend Taiwan if China invades. Farron, I'd like to get your analysis. What are your thoughts?
Well, okay, so if he's going to fix inflation in any way, like how he did last week, where he had a party and they headlined it with James Taylor, strap in, folks. We're in for a wild ride on that one. But the one thing that I found so interesting is he also had some comments about Russia as well. Scott Pelley of CBS 60 Minutes asked Biden, if Russia, they're already planning if Russia were to use biological or chemical weapons. And Joe Biden said, that it would be met with, it would be a very, what was the term that he used? I'm trying to remember. It was that they would be met with force. And he said, you're not going to tell me like what that would be. And he goes, why would I tell you? Like, why would I tell you if I know what it's going to be? So it's interesting how he can't say it for Russia. However, when asked if China invades Taiwan, well, first he was asked if in a hypothetical, if China were to do anything, attack against Taiwan, Biden first said, well, yeah, the United States would also respond. And then he flat out was like, okay, China invades Taiwan. What are you doing? And he's like, we're invading too. Like we're sending American troops over. to which then the White House, like you said, comes back and is like, no, that is not what we said. If you're Chinese President Xi Jinping right now, I mean, you got to be laughing your tail off. Like, he doesn't know what's going on. The White House is trying to shut him up. Like, why not invade Taiwan now? They don't know what the hell they're going to do. It's bananas, BANANAS over there in the White House.
So I want to just throw this out here. Look, I am not a fan of President Joe Biden. He is clearly someone who has been on the wrong side of history. He stood with segregationists. He was always for segregation. He was against busing. He voted for the war in Iraq, the disastrous war in Iraq. He gladly said he'd prostitute himself to corporations. He is one of the main architects of the crime bill. He has been a corporate Democrat through and through. He is one of the architects of this neoliberal nightmare we are living in. But as someone who has seen 3 of his family members, I have seen 3 of my family members battle with dementia and, Alzheimer's. I have to say, they must be really giving Biden a cocktail of some kind of drugs just to keep him at least somewhat coherent, because there's something wrong with Joe Biden. Now, this was been brought up during the 2020 Democratic primary, and since then it's been hushed. But you can't look me in the eye and tell me that this president that we have, he's clearly showing signs of dementia. If not, he has them already, or he's able to say these things, and then quickly the cleanup crew, being his administration, has to fix it right away. And it shows really the lack of power in the Biden-Harris administration. I also want to pull this up here too, because again, you Farron brought this up. Beijing, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said, and this is from Reuters, said on Monday that China has lodged stern representations with the United States after U.S. President Joe Biden said U.S. forces would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion. China reserves the right to take all necessary measures in response to activities that split the nation apart, said Mao Ning, a spokesperson at the Foreign Ministry, at the regular media briefing. So that's just an example of the amount of crap this administration has to clean up. Your thoughts?
I mean, I guess the White House is probably the world's most expensive retirement home when it comes to Joe Biden. But, again, it's just, if you look back in history, for example, many of the reasons why World War I was started was because there was so much miscommunication. You had presidents saying one thing, congressmen saying another, the Kaiser saying one thing, parliament saying another. You had so much misinformation, disinformation. All of a sudden, Franz Ferdinand gets assassinated, and boom, the whole war goes to hell. And it's one of these things. Now we're in a different time. Obviously, we have nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction now, obviously. But when you have all of this miscommunication just within one administration, you really have to sit and think, like, do these elected officials truly know what they are doing? And the answer is absolutely not. And the fact that, then you have to then ask yourself a deeper question. Okay, if they don't know what they're doing, then who's really in charge? And you always hear that the deep state, and they know what's going on. I mean, you truly have to realize at this point, the fact that he is just, the fact that he's just going about his day, and wait until vanilla ice cream at 5 p.m. I know that people are saying, oh, that's the commander in chief. Well, that's kind of what's happening, folks. And, it's you have to wonder who truly is running the country, because you damn well know he ain't. Especially with all of this miscommunication, a president is on with it. You didn't see this stuff from Obama. You might have seen this stuff with Trump, but a lot of the times it was people going against him just merely for the sake of going against him and then to sell a new book. But it truly is kind of horrifying of who's really doing all the running of the show.
I want to pull up an article here real quick, but I want to put some democracy in the chat. I know, foreign concept. What is democracy? America hasn't seen that for quite some time. But hey, type 1 if the office of president still means something to you. Type 2 if it means nothing to me, and that all the presidential administrations haven't done jack for the people. And again, I know, before anyone says, well, this president has done this, let's count from Reagan up until now, because that's the start of this neoliberal nightmare that we're in. I also want to pull this article here from Common Dreams as well, where again, you have Joe Biden who says this, and look, I had a chance to see the Peace Museum in Hiroshima. Going into that museum and walking out of it, it will change you. You can't look me straight in the eye and tell me you're going to be the same person walking in there. But Biden says that nukes in Ukraine would change the face of war unlike anything since World War II. I hope someone sends Joe Biden the memo that, Hiroshima and Nagasaki were, bombed by U.S. forces. So in an interview with 60 Minutes set to air Sunday night, President Joe Biden says that his clear advice to Russian President Vladimir Putin is if he's considering using chemical or tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine would be this: don't, which is like, God, what a senile old bat. And this is something you brought up earlier in the segment, Farron. The question was asked by news correspondent Scott Pelley, who described a current state of affairs in which Putin, after nearly 9 months of protracted war and recent gains by Ukrainian counteroffensive, is feeling embarrassed and pushed into a corner. Asked what he would do in response if any kind of nuclear strike, Biden said, "You think I would tell you if I knew exactly what it would be? Of course I'm not going to tell you," but he added, "It'll be consequential." Such a move, said Biden, would change the face of war unlike anything since World War II. And so I just want to stop right there and just say, folks, the survivors will envy the dead if one tactical nuke is dropped. There's no going back. Major metropolitan cities all across the world will be targeted too, because if one side drops a nuke, then another side's going to drop a nuke. And I hope you've crossed off everything off your bucket list. But yeah, that's the world we're in. Farron, your thoughts?
Again, I just think it's interesting how he can't really say what's going to happen with Russia, but he'll damn well say what's going to happen with China. But then you also have to ask yourself the question of, who is letting him do these interviews? I mean, truly, like, if you don't know what he's going to say, if you don't know what he's going to do, and again, he's not running the show. So for the person who is, why are you like putting him out there and to basically, not land every question? I will say in the very beginning of the interview, Scott Pelley kind of does these little softball questions, but for the most part, you basically aren't left feeling any better than you did before with President Biden as far as dealing with all this. I mean, at least he understands now, though, that Ukraine having any kind of nuclear weapons, now Ukraine is asking for actually, like high-powered missiles, and Biden's like, that would be too much of a provocation. Well, at least you can see that, because up until now, you've just been money here. They're asking for another 40 billion after the 46 that we've already given them. They want more money. They're actually bypassing Biden now, Zelensky, who's having a little bit of a spat with Biden and asking Congress directly for money. At least Biden can see that, giving them high-powered missiles is not a good idea. I can, sleep a little bit more soundly tonight, but for the most part, he still don't know what in the hell is going on.
So speaking of people knowing not what's going on, I found this video from Case Study QB. Shout out to Case Study QB. I'm actually going to be on the show later today. At I think around 6:30 p.m. my time or so. So I'm really looking forward to being on a show. He's wrongly being censored on Twitter, but apparently, and this is a video that he's found where Biden aides are quietly coming together to talk about his reelection. So, we covered this segment for 60 Minutes because the thing is, let's paint a picture here. Biden is set on running for a second term. And if he wins, he will, dare I say it, be close in his being close to his 90s at that point. I mean, right now he's in his mid 80s, but it's got to stop. This madness has got to stop. So let's go ahead and play this video for the people.
Michael, before we go, I got to ask you about President Biden's 2024 reelection campaign. Reportedly, President Biden's top aides have been quietly building a 2024 campaign effort with increasing discussions about who might manage the operation, potential themes, and structure. As someone who has worked in the White House and certainly on campaigns, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. The president has said he's running for re-election, but you don't run for president for 4 years, and I don't think they ever planned to. I think they've always planned to run for 8, and why wouldn't he at this point? Like you mentioned, he's been racking up a lot of legislative wins, and one of the most important things he's done is restore a lot of decency and honesty and respect to respect to the White House and
Oh God, that hurt my brain.
Yeah, I was gonna say my brain's cracking.
by the previous administration and the previous president who may run again. And I think he's been a striking contrast to what we had. So I'm not surprised that they are starting to prepare. It's about that time once November is over.
I'm sorry, audience. I can't put you through that anymore. That's violence. If I keep even playing one more second longer. This is again how bad corporate media truly has become, and it really shows you the state of affairs in which information is being fed to the American people, because CNN, MSNBC, CBS, and ABC parrot the same talking point. Everything's fine. Biden's returning back decency, even though the kids are still in cages. Even though the Biden-Harris administration are still carrying on a lot of Trump's foreign and domestic policies. Inflation is running amok. Gas prices are still up. Americans are making a choice between either paying the bills or buying food. You have an administration that is clearly turning a blind eye to the prison industrial complex, military industrial complex. Nothing has fundamentally changed. I could rant on and on and on. And before anyone types in the comment section below, he's doing something about student debt. Remember, student debt also has interest on it. And that 10K doesn't really do jack. And in fact, there's a way for that 10K student debt forgiveness for that to fail immediately. So Farron, look, you've done a lot of work in Washington, D.C. You've interviewed a lot of politicians. You made a career in covering this. So for your final thoughts, I want to give you the final word on this. What should our audience and everyone that's watching, who's probably, confused about all this information that's being presented? Oh, things are great. COVID's over. Biden's running again in 2024. What should people take away from this?
Folks, one of the first things that you learn when you hit the pavement in DC is you learn that people are not thinking about the next 2 years, not even the next 4 years. The trajectory that people are thinking of in Washington, D.C. is from 6 to 8 years. It's the Senate campaigns and the presidency. For that guy to tell you that, people don't run for president for 4 years. What was Hillary Clinton doing the second after Obama won his reelection in 2012? Everyone was talking about who's he going to pass the torch to? Who's he going to be talking to? You saw Hillary Clinton, all of her segments on MSNBC, CNN, all of them ramping up. They do run for 4 years. They just want to pretend and gaslight you and say, oh, no. See, we are really working in Washington. We're not eyeing, the next election and going to be working on this for 4 years. We're actually going to go do work. No, they are gaslighting you. And if anybody proved that they're completely wrong, it's the guy who is going to try to run against the Democrats, who we probably think is going to be Donald Trump, who started campaigning the day after he lost. So they do this for 4 years, folks. Don't let them gaslight you. They're thinking long term, and they always will be thinking long term. They're never thinking of today and how can we fix today.
And that's a great note to end it on. I can't follow up with that. Outstanding.